Hello all. So hi, today we will be studying optional class in Java 8. Like basically why we are using optional class, what was the need of introducing the optional class in Java 8, and so the main features of the optional class we will be studying, and then after that we will be doing some basic hands-on also on optional class, their methods and how we can use the optional class or how we can accommodate in our existing code. So then we will be studying about the optional class. So let's go on, like how we can proceed with the optional class. So introduction to optional class, we can say that Java 8 introduced the optional class to handle the null pointer exceptions. So basically before Java 8, like earlier versions of Java 8, like earlier versions before of Java, like Java 7, Java 6, they were not having the optional class. So suppose if any of the value is not being present there, so what it does that it give the null pointer exception if the value is not present. So to avoid the null pointer exception, Java 8 introduced the optional class, and it is having very certain methods and other benefits also, which we will be studying in further video. So what is optional class? So optional class is basically a container object which may or may not contain a non-null value, useful for avoiding null checks and making code more readable. So that's why we are using the optional class, so that we can avoid the null checks, and we are developer should be basically unsure like whether it is having the value or not. But if they are going with the optional class, so they will be unsure if the value is not present also, then also their code will not be able to break. And suppose this is a good coding practice, as we are suppose following the clean coding practice of the solid principles also. So that's why we use the optional class, so to avoid these null pointer exceptions and to avoid these null checks further. Suppose like what earlier we were doing before Java 8, we were just suppose in case there is a project which contains the data, and it is fetching the data from the DB on the execution of the query, and then one by one we are checking whether each column or each array is containing that data or not while doing the iteration. So that is not a good practice. So using the optional class, we are unsure whether it is contain the data or it is not containing the data. So that's why we use the optional class to handle these exception, null pointer exception, and to avoid the null checks and making more code more readable basically. So why we use the optional class? As I mentioned earlier, that it reduces the risk of null pointer exceptions, improves code readability, and avoids unnecessary null checks. And apart from that, it encourages better API design by explicitly stating when a value might be absent. So these are the some important benefits of the optional class, which you can just read out. I will be sharing this PPT in my Git link, and you can just read out, and it is very important. As an interview point of question, interview can ask why we use the optional. So these things you can tell, and further on you can more explain by giving the example. So creating and using optional. So suppose in the case you are new to optional, as I mentioned earlier, so you can use this optional class by using these methods. It is having many methods, but some of them I have shown here, like Optional.of hello. Hello is of string data type, and it is giving the optional value as OPT. And then further on OPT, when we will print of hello, so it will give the OPT of hello. We will be doing more coding exercises in ID, but just it's a basic and examples you can say for creating and how we can use the optional class in our code. Then it is having the Optional.empty. Suppose you want the any empty value you want to use in your code, so then you can go this Optional.empty, and it will be creating the empty optional value. Then it is having the third one, Optional.of.Nullable, which is the most used method you can say, and which is the most as the advantage is that Optional.of.Nullable, it will store both the null values also and non-nullable values also. If it is null, so it will return the Optional.empty. Similarly, if here the value is present, then only we uses the Optional.of. Otherwise, if the value is not present and we are unsure about the value, then we always go to have a preference of Optional.of.Nullable. Then key optional methods, as I mentioned, these are the some of the methods, and there are many more methods. You can just go to ID and just go with the optional class creation, and you can just do a basic hands-on on your own, and you will be getting to know which are the methods of optional and how you can use and how you can accommodate it So that will be a basic and good understanding of optional you will be getting there. So this is the of t value which creates an optional with a non-null value, and this is empty, creates an empty optional, and as I mentioned of nullable, and this is a generic t we have defined t value, and it creates an optional that allows null values also. So this third method is very important and more used when we are unsure that whether it contains the value or it doesn't contain the value. So this is a good method. Now handling optional values. So handling optional values, like we are having further methods, like first one is get method. It will retrieve the values but throw an exception if empty. So suppose if you are having you have got the value like optional.enable, you have done it and you got the optional value, suppose in the case. Now you want to just print or you want to just get the value, so then you can go with the get method of the optional class and it will just simply return the value. But in the case like if we are using suppose optional.of method, and then if it doesn't contain any value and you are just calling the get method further on, so it will give the null pointer exception. And similarly the second one is dot or else. So this is the most other used method I can say, that returns the value if present, otherwise a default value. So this we can use with the support with the optional value, like optional value is being present, then it will use that particular value and it return it. Otherwise if the value is not present, so then we can return some alternative piece of values. So basically optional we uses to avoid the null pointer exception. Till now we have studied to avoid the null checks, second point, and the third point is to return a alternate piece of code, that is alternate piece of code you can throw, some exception you can throw, and the fourth point is to return some alternate values which you can use dot or else. Then the next method is dot or else get, similar to or else but takes a supplier. So in this we need to provide the supplier interface and then we can work on it. Similarly dot or else throw, and this throws an exception if no value is being present there. Now using map and flat map. So map and flat map we will be covering in other sessions, but as of now you can know that map and flat map is basically a part of Java 8 streams, and both are intermediate operations. And we can use it, and both is having a minor difference between the map and the flat map. So map basically used to transform the value inside optional. Like how we can use with the optional, this is the way that we can do optional dot map and then string reference operator and then length. So it will get return the length of that particular string in the optional format. Then the second method is flat map. It is nothing but as of now, like I can say that it is a combination of map only internally, but it is having one more operation like flattened operation plus map. So used when the mapping functions returns an optional. Suppose optional and of optional.of integer is there, one more optional is present inside the optional, nested optional is there, and then we are doing the map of this thing. So this is not a good right practice. Like if this kind of scenario you ever get in your interview questions or anywhere in your code or in your project, so then you can I will suggest to use the flat map, because flat map is more readable and more convenient to use here. And so that's why we are using the flat map here. Suppose there is a list of string, for example I am giving for flat map, and now you just need to get the list of strings from there. So flat map will be beneficial there, and you can just go on with that, and inside that you can just further stream that list and you will get a single list only. Best practices while using optional: use optional for return types, not parameters. Like in parameters we do not need to use the optional. For return type or returning some value we can go for optional. Prefer or else get or over or else when dealing with expensive operations. Suppose we are not sure like whether this particular variable is having the value or not, then we can go dot or else or dot or else get. These are the more beneficial methods. Avoid using get unless you are sure the value is present. Like if the value is not being present, you are just directly calling the get method, it can lead to the null pointer exception. So then why is the use of optional will be not be there? So to avoid these types of exceptions, and in the optional also we can as I mentioned, we can use dot or else to return some alternate value if the value is not present by chance. So use if present for executing actions only if a value is present. So, like if present is another method that it will be executed. This suppose some code is written here inside this, So this will be executed only that particular values being present, and then further code will be executed .if present. Similarly, if not present is there is a method, you can